Winnie the Pooh, Friendly Brothers, a book about being patient with our friends, by Catherine Hapka. Rabbit liked to keep things neat and tidy. His house was neat and tidy. His larder was neat and tidy. His garden was neat and tidy. There was just one problem. Rabbit's friends weren't all neat and tidy, especially certain friends. "Howdy, old long ears!" Tigger cried as he bounced in, scattering rakes, watering cans, and turnips every which way. "Isn't it a stupendous day for bouncing?" Splat! Tigger landed in a muddy spot in the middle of the garden. "Yuck!" Tigger said. Tigers do not like mud. "Ah!" Rabbit cried. "I just planted my turnips there." Tigger looked dubious. "You planted turnips in that big muddy hole?" he said. "Doesn't seem like the best spot to me." Rabbit was still trying to clean up when Pooh arrived. "Hello, Tigger. Hello, Rabbit," Pooh said politely. "I was wondering if you might have a smackerel of honey to spare." Rabbit glared at him. "Just a smackerel?" he demanded. "Or all the honey in my larder?" "Well, if you're trying to clean out your larder, I wouldn't mind," Pooh said agreeably. "Why do you two always come over to bother me and mess up my place?" Rabbit cried. "Oh, bother," Pooh said. "Are we really that much of a bother?" "We didn't mean to make a mess," Tigger added sadly. "Guess we'd better move on, Pooh boy." They said goodbye to Rabbit and left. "Finally," Rabbit muttered. "Now maybe I can put things right again." He set to work. First he filled in the hole Tigger had made and replanted his turnips. Then he stacked some empty honey pots outside in a tidy pile so he could refill them later. It was a lot of work, and the summer sun was very warm. After a while, Rabbit went into the house to put on his gardening hat. When he came back outside, Tigger and Pooh had returned. "We came back to say we're sorry we were so messified earlier," Tigger told Rabbit. Pooh nodded. "And to help you clean up." "No!" Rabbit said in alarm. "That's quite all right. Apology accepted." "But we want to help," Tigger insisted. "Tiggers love cleaning up. Just watch me bounce this pile of honey pots back into place." "Tigger, no!" Rabbit cried. It was too late. Tigger bounced into the pile of pots and sent them flying everywhere, except back into place. Then Rabbit turned to see Pooh digging up the spot where he had just planted his turnips. "What are you doing?" he cried. "I dug a hole so you can plant your turnips again where Tigger bounced them," Pooh explained helpfully. "No!" Rabbit screeched. "Must you two make a mess everywhere you go? Get out! Get out now!" "What are you trying to say, Longears?" Tigger said. "Get out!" Rabbit howled at the top of his lungs. Startled, Pooh and Tigger turned to go once more. "Sorry, Rabbit," Pooh called over his shoulder. Rabbit had just started collecting the scattered honey pots when he heard someone coming. "I said get out!" he shouted. Then he turned and saw that it was Kanga and Roo. Sorry about the shouting," he told them. "I thought you were someone else." "Who'd you think we were, Rabbit?" Roo asked curiously. "And why'd you tell him to get out?" "I thought you were Tigger and Pooh." Rabbit frowned as he thought about the pair. "They've been messing up my place all day long. I can't take it anymore." "Oh dear," Kanga said. "Tigger and Pooh are your friends, Rabbit. What could they have done that was so terrible? Just look at this place." Rabbit waved his arm at the mess. "Tigger bounced my turnips, and Pooh wanted to eat my honey. I barely got the place looking spiffy again when Tigger came back and bounced the honey pots all over the place, while Pooh dug up the turnips I had just replanted." Kanga smiled gently. "Oh, I see," she said. Little Roo looked sad. "Does that mean Tigger and Pooh aren't your friends anymore?" he asked. Rabbit shrugged. "Never thought of it that way." "But you told them to get out and not come back," Roo said. "That doesn't sound very friendly." He sighed. "I'd sure miss Tigger and Pooh if they weren't my friends anymore." "I would too, dear," Kanga said. "Pooh has the warmest heart in the 100-acre wood. His visits always make me happy." Roo nodded. "And Tigger's lots of fun. He never gets tired of playing. And he always lets me pick the game." Rabbit thought about what Kanga and Roo were saying. It was kind of nice having a friendly visitor every day, even if he did eat all the honey. And Tigger made the whole wood seem more cheerful with his bouncing, even if he made a mess while he was at it. "I don't really want them to go away and never come back," he admitted. "I just want Pooh to stop eating all my honey, and Tigger to stop bouncing my gardens to smithereens." "I think you could be a little more patient with your friends," Kanga told Rabbit kindly. "Bah," Rabbit said. "I don't know how to be that patient." "Of course you do," Kanga smiled. "All good gardeners know how to be patient." You're right about that." Rabbit looked around his tidy garden. "Gardening's hard work, and it takes time." He frowned. "That's why it's so infuriating when Tigger bounces through and wrecks the place." "But you don't get upset with the wind when it blows leaves into your garden, do you?" Kanga inquired. Rabbit shook his head. "A blustery day can make a mess, but the wind helps spread seeds and pollen." "Do you get mad when your garden needs water?" she asked. "Don't be silly," Rabbit said. "Every garden needs water to grow. I give my garden as much water as it needs, even if it means filling the watering can 20 times. See?" Roo clapped his hands. "You are patient, Rabbit." Rabbit wasn't sure what to think of that. "Well, maybe I am." The following day, Tigger and Pooh paid Rabbit another visit. "Are you still upset with us, Rabbit?" Pooh asked. Before Rabbit could answer, a gust of wind grabbed his hat and blew it up into a tall tree. "Drat, my hat!" Rabbit cried. "Leave it to me, Longears," Tigger said. "I'll get it back for ya." He bounced way up into the tree and grabbed the hat, then landed again, right in Rabbit's pumpkin patch. For a moment, Rabbit saw red. But the gusty wind had reminded him of what Kanga had said. Tigger made a mess sometimes, just like the wind, but he was only trying to help. "Thank you, Tigger," Rabbit said as patiently as he could. "Your bouncing does come in handy now and then." "Shall I help pick up these honey pots, Rabbit?" Pooh offered. "I could even double-check to make sure there's no honey left in them." He reached for a honey pot, but he accidentally knocked over Rabbit's watering can. "Oh no!" Rabbit cried. But the water made him remember Kanga's words again. Pooh needed a lot of honey to keep his tummy happy. just like Rabbit's garden needed a lot of water to make it grow. And now that Rabbit thought about it, a few smackerels of honey were a small price to pay for Pooh's cheerful visits. "Thank you, Pooh," he said patiently. "I was about to water that part of the garden anyway." From then on, Rabbit still tried to keep things neat and tidy. But it didn't bother him as much when Pooh ate all his honey, and he didn't get quite as angry when Tigger was a little too bouncy. Instead, he tried to be patient and look for the good things in Pooh, Tigger, and all of his other friends in the wood. After all, that was what friends were for. The end.